I'm gonna get you out of the east side, Ma. Put you up somewhere real nice. In a penthouse like you want, with a view of the whole friggin' city.
Colin sent me The Ballad of Reading Jael by Oscar Wilde, and in it, one of the quotes is "a greater little thing," and it's about how each man destroys the thing he loves. And so, given what happens in the finale, I thought it was an apt title for it. The top of episode 8 is Frances's entree, and we finally see some of Frances's backstory and the fact that she knew what Oswald did to her sons the whole time.
I got the devil in my house, Rex.
Well, then maybe let him go.
What Oz doesn't know is that she's asked Rex to kill him for her. And so she says, we're going out. And then they go to a jazz club. But what Oz sees that as is a celebration of he has his mom back. Oz sits with Frances in a booth and he tells her,
I know you miss him, Ma.
and then he turns around and he's so happy to be with his mom. That moment is meant to be just a gut punch. Like something's wrong with this kid. I think it's always a question of nature versus nurture. I know Frances has shaped him, but I also know Oz shaped Frances too. She made a choice when she chose to keep him alive, and so she made a deal with the devil. So there was a darkening by Frances because of Oz as well.
Don't give up on me.
She's just like, I don't have to do this tonight. And she just takes one step at a time. And then we find them in this knot all those years later.
One of the things that Lauren did so brilliantly was the idea of the way that Oz understands the story versus the way that we come to understand. And this, of course, becomes a key aspect that Sophia ends up being able to exploit.
Sophia brings Frances back to this rundown jazz club that has a darkness that we haven't really seen in any other instance.
It's decayed and the chandelier's fallen from the Riddler's bombs from the shaking. It's almost like an earthquake hit it. I pitched Lauren the theme of the jungle. Gotham is like a jungle. It's a dangerous place. And I felt that the club could play with that theme, but in a fanciful way. So it's a very evocative place.
Sophia has this very sophisticated group therapy session where all he has to do is this one thing and he doesn't have the cojones to do it.
Just say it, tell her.
It's just your disease talking, Ma.
I hate you. I hate you for what you did. I never stopped hating you.
All these years, the sound has never come out. That's like, my babies are dead sound.
I shouldn't let Rex kill you when I had the chance.
Colin and Dee Dee are both such beasts, and what they had to do and say to each other, it's like this ultimate unmasking. But that Sophia is witnessing him hearing things from his mother that he can never unhear.
You're the goddamn devil.
Is enormously satisfying. There's nothing better. Up until it all sort of goes haywire.
Sophia decides to leave Gotham behind, but first, before she goes anywhere, she needs to hurt Oz. It all seems great until everything goes to hell.
In thinking about where that scene should be, we ended up landing on the idea of an airport because it was so great to see Sophia almost get away with it.
I have always said this show is a tragedy, and so that's where you really start to feel it. What we wanted to do is Oz drive her towards the water under a bridge. It's the Elliott Bridge that's very emblematic of our class disparity in Gotham. I always knew Sophia would end up back in Arkham and that there would be a final Oz and Sophia showdown. This is a show about Oz. It's called The Penguin. And you know in some form he's going to rise above in some way.
It is a fate worse than death for her to go back to that place. He really turns the tables, and there is no worse thing to happen to her.
Oz wants to hurt her in the way that she has hurt him, and in his mind, once you mess with his mom, there's no going back. He's going to make sure Sophia's punished. Towards the end of the show, Victor has seen Oz at his most vulnerable. The two of those guys have been through everything together. Someone seeing his vulnerability feels like a weakness. And in Oz's opinion, he cannot achieve what he needs to achieve if he has those weaknesses around.
For him to be betrayed by the person that he considers family now, after we have finally done this thing, we got to the top of the game. It made me, reading the scripts, go, wow, this guy's worse than I thought.
It wasn't for nothing.
The fact that he goes to such extremes because he's so broken, that's the tragedy of the story.
It's Oz really in that moment when he kills Victor, killing his own heart and becoming a monster.
Oz, at the end of this show, he's not the Oz we left in the movie. He's progressed in his criminality.
For me, it was always Oz and his mother. Oz needs his mother's love. He will get to the top, but he will not have his mother's love. She ends up in a state she never wanted to be in, that he knew she never wanted to be in, but he cannot let go of her.
The story's about having to fully stare into what that desire actually gets you, which is less than nothing.
It all plays out through this transactional relationship where he's getting people to play the roles in the story the way he needs them to be, and you realize just how broken he is. And Eve is an incredibly key aspect to that.
Eve and Oz have a very transactional relationship, but I think they understand each other. They're both survivors.
She is in this ultimate role play for him. She's really taking on the energy of his mother, literally taking on the wardrobe, the look.
In another situation, it would have been a romantic moment, but in this series, it's a very dark moment.
Now, the woman who Oz pays to sleep with, he's made her into his mother by wearing his mother's dress. It was always having Eve dress up like his mother in that dress, which we established early, and see that Oz is delusional, that there is something darker in him than you might suspect. I knew that the goal of the series by the end was to have him rise to the top or get closer to that goal. But when he achieves power, that he's lost a lot of himself as well. I've always sought to make it feel operatic in ways, to have it feel very tragic in the end. So even when Oz succeeds and even when Oz gets everything he wants, I wanted it to feel tragic. He created his own delusion in that way. It's a very twisted way to end.
Gotham's yours, sweetheart. Nothing's standing in your way now.